Hi guys, welcome to another Kamikaze creation video. That little butterfly plate that I stripped down in the last video, I've actually packaged it up and sent it away to the guys that do the water cutting. They've said that's achievable to cut that up. Not sure what it's going to cost at this stage, but that solves that problem with those holes through to the centre of it. I'm not really worried about those anymore. If I can get a blanking plate, well, basically a packing plate cut that does exactly the same thing, I'm happy with that, and that'll space this manifold out. Now, I've fitted the manifold back onto the motor, just sitting on the studs, and I'm going to have a look at some dimensions and work out whether I can customise it. So I'll show you what I'm doing. I've set this manifold back on, and just looking at the clearance, I've also put the alternator back on, just looking at the clearance over the alternator. And as you can see there, we've got about 95 mil. That's with the ruler sitting pretty much on top of that manifold. And what I'm planning on doing, I looked up a few aluminium suppliers, and I'm looking at a 100 mil piece of aluminium tube. The one that I found came with a 3 mil wall or a 6 mil wall, and I'm thinking about going for 6 mil. And I'm looking at going down and seeing a machinist today, seeing if they can machine this tube off here, 100 mil down, and then maybe fly cut it with a single cutter, set at 100 mil to give me a curve through this top section. Now at 100 mil, it will actually separate, it'll take this whole piece out, so it's going to take the fitting out there for that extra injector, but it's still all held together because of the front of the manifold. So the piece will not change. We'll see what it's like after welding. We may have to skim this face to get it flat again, but that's the plan at the moment. Put a 100 mil tube on there, front facing. I've got 95 mil clearance, and that's with the belt reasonably tight. And this manifold's probably hanging on those bolts, so even if it sat up a little bit more, I'm going to get a little bit more clearance. And I'm thinking about maybe even just a tilt on the front of it here and having the throttle body come out here. So that's what I'm looking at. Front facing throttle body using that existing manifold. There's a few out there like it, but I'll take this down and see if I can get it machined. Well guys, here's the modified manifold. So at this stage I've had the top cut off the original manifold. So if you haven't had a look inside and you want to have a look inside one, basically it's the same shape. It's just been a cast aluminium piece. There's where the throttle body is, and I've just cut through the base of it to separate the down pipes from the main area or the main chamber. This face here, I'm planning on setting it up in machine and doing a fly cut, so a single tool cutter running through the length of it at the diameter of that, which is 100 mil bit of pipe. So I'm going to cut a template or draw out a template of these two sections here to try to draw it in one piece, basically working this main outline. I'm not too worried about what's on the inside, but mainly this outline to get something that fits pretty close on this top face that I can cut out of the main tube. So I'll do that while it's still open at either end and I can have a look at it. I'm also going to port these down a bit, so get a rotary burr and smooth out these edges so that it's nice and smooth running down into the chambers. I've got this a little bit longer than I need it, but basically that's given you the idea. So it will mount on top of that manifold, blanking off, definitely blanking off this end and putting a few vacuum lines in here, especially one that goes to the brake booster. but I'll need a couple of other vacuum lines, one to keep an eye on the pressure inside there, which will eventually go to the ECU, probably even a air temperature sensor to keep an idea of what the air temperature is. I think actually it'll go up this end because it's supposed to be pretty close to the air coming into the throttle body. So this is the idea that I'm after. I'll also make a plate for the front side of it to mount to whatever throttle body I buy, so the throttle body can just bolt straight on there, work out where my sensors got to go, and I'll be honky-dory. So that's the starting progress. I think it'll look a lot better once I get into it, but that's the starting progress of converting to a front-facing throttle body manifold. I've had a little bit of a change around. You'll see the UC is sitting back there in the background. So close. I keep saying so close, but so close to hopefully having that supercharger kit for Christmas and being able to start working on that project. It's been a long road and taken a fair bit of patience on my part, most definitely, but I know the product will be worth it in the end, and I can't wait to do that. But I've still been working on this 1G, and I met up with a couple of awesome blokes while I was up in Brisbane last weekend. Gabby came around and brought his RA28. He's put the JDM chin on his, and he had the RA28 23 chin piece, the original piece, for sale, and I bought that off him, and it's in excellent condition. I'll give you a look at that in a second because I was missing that off the little Celica, and really happy to get that. And Gabby was great to spend some time with and have a chat. A great source of information. He's running beams in his little RA28, and it's a really nice build. So Gabby, great to meet you, and thanks heaps for that little chin piece. I also caught up with David while I was up in Brisbane. He's got a Supra with the 1G in it, original car. He converted it to a single turbo with wastegate, spent a lot of money on it, brought it over from New Zealand. It's had a few issues with the starter motor, it's been sitting for a while, but he wants to convert over to a 1JZ for his. And because he's done that, he's pulling the 1G out, which had a single turbo, and awesome. I bought the whole motor off him, so I've got a spare because the parts are getting hard to get for these, but it had a single turbo manifold on it. And we met up in the city over the weekend, and he brought this into me. So I'll fit that up to the engine and give you a look at it. So here's that single turbo manifold in place on the car. Now, it's not perfect, but I tell you, I was going to spend $1,200 buying a manifold to go on here. The original kit I looked at for this was $1,200 for the manifold and about $3,500 for the turbo. And I've actually been watching a few videos on the eBay turbos, and I thought it's a very replaceable part. So I've picked myself up an eBay turbo. Ironically, it cost $140. Anyway, it's a part that's easily changeable. This manifold I got with the engine, and I'm very happy to have that engine. I don't think it's a third generation engine. I think it's a first or second generation, but that doesn't matter. It's got heaps of spares. So this is the single turbo manifold sitting on the little 1G, which is adding to it, and got a few parts to get. The turbo that I bought has a built-in wastegate. It's oil cooled, and I'll show you that when I get it. As you can see on the little cupcake, I'll get back a little bit. My intercooler was sitting down very low if you have a look at some of my early videos, and they couldn't fit this chin piece on. So I've been on the lookout for one, and Gabby came up with it. I contacted him via Marketplace, and we met up on the weekend, and I had a look at his little car. But that's going to look great. That's going to fill in that under bumper section there, and look great. So thanks, Gabby. Awesome part. A little bit more progress on the old girl. I'm looking forward to catching up with David again over the Christmas break, and we're going to rip his 1G out of the Supra, and I'll bring that home. The bonus bit about that, not only that manifold, which is so much better than I originally thought, but also I've been trying to buy that thermostat housing. I've tried 2 companies out of America, and both of them have sent my money back saying no longer available. But the bonus is, on David's motor there should be a thermostat housing, so I can finally finish off that water system on this motor. But the hot side and cold side are progressing. It'll be really interesting to see what that eBay turbo is. I reckon I'll get a few comments about that from people, but it's such a changeable part. I was happy to give it a go and see what the engine's like with it. I've heard lots of positives and lots of negatives. The main thing with the positives is, if it isn't right, it's so cheap, you just throw it out. I'll probably do a bit more research on turbos, but moving really well. Hot side, cold side, both moving at once and making progress. So if you like what I'm doing, keep an eye on what I'm doing. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and have a chat to me. Get into the comments, have your opinions. Let's start a discussion up. Loving what I'm doing, and I've been loving the feedback from you guys. So take care, and catch you in the next video.